I never thought humiliation could taste like champagne, but that night it did. The stem of the glass was cold in my hand. The crystal folder with my bank papers sat heavy in my lap. I had brought it as a surprise gift for my younger sister Chloe's graduation, an act of pride, not pity. She was 27, the family's golden child, and I wanted to help her start adult life on the right foot. The party had been planned for weeks. Chloe had insisted it be glamorous, a rooftop venue downtown with fairy lights strung across steel beams, cameras capturing every angle, and phones lifted for her Instagram live stream. Guests milled about in cocktail dresses, and sharp suits, their laughter echoing across the city skyline. I was proud, sitting quietly at one of the tables, waiting for the right moment to hand over that folder with the savings statement, a record of one fey $2 million I had carefully built, over years of work and a deed to the estate, had inherited from our grandmother worth $2 million more. Then Chloe raised her glass. The crowd hushed, and the live stream light blinked red. I remember her sequin dress catching the spotlights, her smile painted wide. She looked right at me. "You're not the one anyone dreams about, Olivia," she said, laughing. "You're just the one who keeps the house and pays the bills." The words dropped like glass shattering. I froze. Around us, the clink of champagne flutes died midair. A few people chuckled nervously. Others turned away, pretending to study their phones. The camera kept rolling. I gripped the folder tighter, the edges pressing into my palm. That was the moment humiliation turned physical, an ache in my chest, a heat behind my eyes. But I did not answer. I placed the folder back into my bag and kept my face still. The silence pressed in heavier than any insult could. Chloe laughed again, trying to play it off, but the echo rang hollow. In that moment, I understood the 4 stages of betrayal. First came shock, the blunt strike of her words. Then came loneliness. I felt the room had drawn a circle around me, leaving me outside. Third was the performance, the way everyone forced small smiles, pretending nothing had happened. And last, the weight of being unseen and visible, even while the live stream numbers climbed on the corner of her screen. I slipped away before dessert. No scene, no raised voice. Just the quiet scrape of my chair against the floor, the click of my heels across the rooftop deck, and the cool night air swallowing me whole. Behind me, Chloe's laughter stumbled, but she quickly recovered for the camera. On the ride home, my phone buzzed with notifications, messages from cousins. It was just a joke. From my mother, "Don't embarrass your sister further." From strangers' online number, "Reliable Olivia." The clip had already started spreading, ripped from the live stream and replayed with mocking captions. I sat in my car outside the estate, watching the lights flicker across the windows. Inside that house lay the memory of my grandmother's voice telling me, security matters more than sparkle. She had left me this place not because I was exciting, but because I was steady. That night, steadiness felt like a curse. Still, I made myself a promise. Humiliation could cut me down, but it could also carve something sharper. I would not explain myself. I would not beg for understanding. I would wait. And what Chloe and everyone else did not know was that I had kept every receipt. Tell me where you are watching from, and make sure you subscribe. Because families and money, they are the darkest battlefield of all. Morning came with a brightness that felt cruel. Sunlight spilled across the estate's wide windows, glinting on polished wood floors, reminding me of the life I had built. I should have felt secure, proud, even sitting inside a $2 million home with more than one fey $2 million saved. Instead, I felt stripped bare. My phone was a storm. 17 missed calls, dozens of texts, some angry, some pleading, most confused. Chloe had already posted a filtered photo from the party, her in sequins holding a champagne glass captioned, "To family laughter and new beginnings." No mention of her sister leaving the room like a ghost. No hint of the venom she had spilled. Then came the private messages. My cousin wrote, "You know she didn't mean it like that, right? She was joking for the camera." A friend from work saw the clip. "You okay? That was rough." And then my mother's text, "Don't embarrass Chloe further. People are talking. Be the bigger person." Bigger person. That phrase had followed me my entire life. Bigger meant quieter, steadier, dependable. Bigger meant swallowing slights so others could shine. Bigger meant being the one who stayed behind to fix the car, while others posed with sports trophies. I set the phone face down on the kitchen table next to my grandmother's old brass keys. She had handed them to me on the day she signed over the estate, her fingers curled tight around mine. "This is yours, Olivia. You keep things together. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." But her faith, her gift, now felt like a burden. The clip of Chloe's toast had already made its way to TikTok. I saw it while scrolling the words captioned in bold. "You're not the one anyone dreams about. You're just the one who pays the bills." The comments came in waves, some mocking, some sympathetic. "Imagine being roasted by your own sister on Livestream," one wrote. Another chimed in, "She sounds like the reliable sister we all secretly need." Reliable Olivia. That phrase started trending. Memes appeared pictures of old sedans, captioned "Reliable Olivia's Ride." A photo of a piggy bank with the words, "She pays the bills." I laughed once bitterly. The internet had turned my humiliation into entertainment. By afternoon, Chloe was already spinning the story. She posted another video smiling into the camera, her tone dripping with false concern. It was just a silly joke. "My sister is amazing, and sometimes she takes things too seriously. But I love her and I hope she knows that." The comments were predictable, fans cooing over her maturity, praising her for handling family drama with grace. It wasn't grace, it was performance, and I knew it. That evening, I met with Eleanor, my oldest friend. She invited me for coffee at a small cafe tucked off Main Street, the kind of place where no one cared about hashtags or followers. She slid her phone across the table, the screen open to a screenshot. "Chloe's spinning this hard," she said. It was from a private group chat Chloe had with friends. Chloe's message was blunt. "My sister stormed out over a compliment. She's always been unstable. I'm worried about her mental state, honestly." I read it twice. Each word cut deeper than the toast. It wasn't enough to humiliate me in front of strangers. Now she was rewriting the story, painting me as fragile, unstable, unfit. Eleanor watched my face carefully. "You okay?" I nodded slowly. "I'm fine. Better than fine, actually." Because in that moment something shifted. The loneliness hardened into resolve. I realized Chloe thought she could shape the story because she had the camera, but she underestimated me. She forgot I had something stronger than followers, the truth in plain, undeniable words. I left the cafe with a calm I hadn't felt in years. For once, I was not going to be the bigger person in silence. I was going to be exact. And what no one expected was how sharp exactness could be. By the third day, it no longer felt like a family quarrel. It had become a show, and I was cast as the villain without even stepping on stage. Chloe had taken the clip from her own live stream, clipped it neatly, and uploaded it with a caption that twisted the knife. "Families can be complicated. Pray for my sister." It gathered 500,000 views in a matter of hours. Comments poured in, some supportive, many mocking. "She really stormed out over that," one person wrote. Another chimed in, "Sounds like someone can't handle being the boring sibling." I watched the numbers rise while sitting in my estate's quiet study. The shelves were lined with ledgers and my grandmother's old journals. A fire snapped in the hearth. It should have felt like safety, but I felt cornered. That evening, my phone buzzed again. A message from Sarah, one of Chloe's bridesmaids from years back. She was hesitant, almost apologetic. "I don't want to stir the pot, Olivia, but you should see this." Attached was another screenshot. This time it was from Chloe's private chat with her influencer circle. Her words glared back at me. She freaked out because I called her marriage material. "Who does that? I'm seriously worried about her stability. She needs therapy, not sympathy." So there it was, the narrative she was building. Not only was I humorless, I was unstable. And worse, she had the group dynamic on her side. People nodded along in emojis, cooing over Chloe's compassion. I sat still, letting the anger settle low in my chest. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't even sad. I felt clear. Later that night, Eleanor called. Her voice was firm, unflinching. "She's painting you into a corner, Liv. You can't just ignore this." "I know," I said. "But I'm not going to fight her on her terms. She wants emotion. She wants me ranting so she can screenshot it, twist it, sell it. I won't give her that." Then what Eleanor asked. "Truth," I said simply. Because truth doesn't need flourish. Truth doesn't need filters. Truth sits heavy and undeniable. The next morning, Sarah messaged again. "If you want, I can add you into the main group chat for a minute. Chloe's been crying in there, saying she's worried about you. Everyone's feeling sorry for her." I hesitated for only a breath. Then I typed back, "Yes, add me. I won't start a fight. I'll just clarify." When the notification popped up, "You were added to the group," my hands stayed steady. I scrolled up. Dozens of messages from Chloe painting me as unstable, fragile, impossible to reason with. Friends chimed in with sympathy. Stay strong, girl. She'll come around. I waited for a lull, then I typed one message. Only one. What Chloe said at her graduation party was, "You're not the one anyone dreams about, Olivia. You're just the one who keeps the house and pays the bills. I'm taking some space and I ask that you respect that." I'm not unstable. I'm not flattered. I heard her words as you all did. That was it. No argument, no emotion. Just the direct quote, the truth everyone had heard, but no one dared repeat. The chat froze. You could almost feel the silence ripple across dozens of screens. The sympathy messages stopped cold. For a full 2 minutes, nothing appeared. Then Chloe's typing bubble popped up 3 little dots, frantic appearing and disappearing as she scrambled to spin. But before she could reply, I typed privately to Sarah, "Thank you. Now remove me." And just like that, I was gone from the chat. My words, however, remained. A stone dropped into still water impossible to ignore. What Chloe didn't realize was that I had finally stepped into the story. Not as the villain she wanted, and not as the fragile shadow she painted, but as someone who carried receipts sharp enough to cut through performance. And this was only the beginning. I had always believed silence was the safest shield. My grandmother taught me that. She used to say, "Olivia, quiet people see everything. Noise dies quickly, but truth stays." For years, I lived by that rule. But now silence was no longer a shield. It was a coffin. Chloe had been burying me alive in her narrative, shoveling dirt with every post, every teary-eyed video where she claimed to be the victim. So I decided to strike not with rage, but with precision. That Sunday afternoon, Eleanor and I sat in my kitchen with mugs of black coffee between us. She leaned back in her chair, eyes sharp. "You've been patient, too patient. It's time." I nodded. "I need one move. Not a fight, just something that can't be spun." The plan was simple, use Chloe's own stage against her. She lived for the audience, for the flood of likes and sympathetic comments. But if the same audience saw unfiltered truth, something she couldn't gloss over, that would be the end of her performance. I opened my grandmother's folder. Inside were the documents I had been planning to give Chloe as a gift before her toast turned into a dagger. My savings statement, one fay, $2 million earned through years of work. The deed to the estate notarized and stamped $2 million more in brick and stone. Proof not of flash or filters, but of foundation. Sarah, the bridesmaid who had secretly supported me, added me back into the family's main chat. The timing was perfect. Chloe had just sent another message, dripping with performance. "I'm so worried about Olivia. She won't answer my calls. I feel like I've lost my sister." Heart emojis stacked beneath from cousins and family friends. I waited a beat, then typed. Only one sentence accompanied by 2 photographs. "The boring one owns everything you're standing in." Attached a crisp image of the savings statement. A scanned copy of the estate deed, the lawyer's stamp visible at the bottom. The chat went dead. I imagined the silence rippling through living rooms across town, phones held in frozen hands. For once, there was no room for interpretation. Numbers in ink didn't twist. 10 seconds. 20. A full minute passed before Chloe's typing bubble appeared. Dots. Vanished. Dots again. Vanished. She was scrambling, but every second that ticked by was another brick cementing the truth in everyone's mind. I asked Sarah to remove me. I had no need to read Chloe's frantic spin. I had left the words and proof behind like a stone in the center of a pond. The ripples would carry themselves. By evening, screenshots of the chat had leaked online. I hadn't shared them, but someone had. Maybe Sarah. Maybe one of the cousins who was tired of Chloe's drama. It didn't matter. The screenshots spread fast. Chloe's toast, my single line, the documents. The internet flipped. Hashtags shifted from mocking me to praising me. Number Team Olivia began trending. Memes now painted Chloe as the reckless influencer who mocked the very sister who had given her stability. One viral tweet read, "Imagine clowning the sibling who owns the house you're standing in. Couldn't be me." For once, the laughter wasn't at my expense. It was hers. That night, I slept without my phone buzzing in my ear. I closed the curtains, left the fire to die down in the hearth, and let the estate surround me with its quiet strength. But as I drifted off, I knew this wasn't the end. Public exposure was only the first move. Revenge, when served properly, is never rushed. and I had only just begun. By the time Monday arrived, the fire had spread beyond my control, and I did not stop it. The screenshots from our family group chat were everywhere. What began as whispers inside a private conversation was now plastered across Twitter threads, Instagram reels, even gossip blogs that lived off influencer drama. People weren't just mocking Chloe, they were dissecting every detail. Commentators zoomed in on the lawyer's stamp, debating the estate's worth, speculating how someone like me, who had been branded boring, could quietly hold more than $3 million in assets. It was surreal. For years I had been invisible, the dependable sister who picked up the check, the one who drove the sensible car and never asked for attention. Now strangers were defending me with passion. This is why you respect the quiet ones. Reliable doesn't mean boring, it means powerful. Hashtags multiplied number Team Olivia, number quiet strength number, inheritance queen. Chloe tried to fight back. She posted a tearful Instagram story, mascara streaking down her cheeks, claiming she had been taken out of context and that I was weaponizing our grandmother's gift. I only wanted to celebrate, she sniffled into the camera, and Olivia twisted it. But the comments weren't buying it. One top reply read, "Girl, she literally quoted you word for word. Nice try." Another was harsher. "You humiliated her on Livestream, and now you're crying because receipts came out." Side down. For the first time, Chloe's charm cracked. Brand partners quietly pulled away. A skincare line deleted their collaboration post. A fashion company paused a campaign. Screenshots of her contracts being scrubbed from websites spread like wildfire, each one accompanied by sarcastic captions. "Guess boring pays the bills after all." I didn't post often, but when I did, I chose carefully. On Tuesday, I uploaded a single photo to my long, quiet Facebook page. The estate's front porch bathed in evening light, my grandmother's brass keys resting on the wooden rail. Caption: "Sometimes being boring just means being the one who actually owns the $1 million estate." The post exploded. Not because it was flashy, but because it was simple, clear, direct. It had the weight of truth without apology. Eleanor called me that night, laughter bubbling in her voice. "You know you've become a symbol, right? People are writing think pieces about you. Articles titled, 'The Power of the Reliable Sister.' I'm not kidding." I leaned against the estate's cool stone wall phone pressed to my ear. "It feels strange. I never wanted an audience." "Sometimes the audience finds you," Eleanor said softly. And she was right. I hadn't gone looking for revenge. But once the world had witnessed the humiliation, I simply refused to stay silent. Truth had carried me this far, and now it was carrying me farther than I ever expected. But the strangest part wasn't the memes or the praise. It was the quiet. My parents hadn't called since the exposure. No texts, no visits, no guilt trips about being the bigger person. They were silent, and silence from them spoke louder than any lecture. Yet just when I thought the storm was settling, another ghost came knocking, one I had almost forgotten. A message popped up from Adrian. "I saw everything. I was wrong about you, Olivia. Can we talk?" The man who once called me safe, predictable, not exciting enough, now reaching out as the world chanted my name. I stared at the screen for a long time, feeling both the sting of the past and the power of the present. Revenge was no longer about Chloe alone. The ripples were reaching farther, pulling in everyone who had once underestimated me. And I knew exactly how to handle them. When Adrian's name lit up my phone, it felt like a ghost slipping through the cracks. I had not thought about him in years, not since the night he ended things with a shrug and a phrase I will never forget. "You're dependable, Olivia, but not exciting. I need someone who sparks." Back then, his words carved through me. He was a rising young attorney, polished and ambitious, while I was steady, too steady in his eyes. He wanted fire. I gave him foundation, and foundation to him was boring. Now here he was crawling back into my inbox, just as the world had begun to see my worth. His message was short, almost casual. "I saw everything. I was wrong about you, Olivia. Can we talk?" I let the phone sit untouched on the counter for hours. I brewed tea, walked. The length of the estate's gardens traced the carved initials my grandmother had left on the porch railing. But my thoughts circled back to that message over and over. By evening, curiosity won. I typed a simple reply, "What do you want, Adrian?" His response was instant. "Dinner. Just dinner. Let me explain." We met 2 nights later at a restaurant downtown, one of those sleek modern places with dim lighting and glass walls that reflected the city's glow. He was already seated when I arrived, looking polished in a navy suit, the same dimpled smile he had used to charm judges and clients alike. "Olivia," he said, standing quickly, "you look incredible." I sat across from him, folding my hands on the table. "Cut to it, Adrian. Why now?" He sighed, leaning back. "I misjudged you. Back then I thought stability was dull. But seeing you now, seeing what you've built, how you've handled yourself," he shook his head almost in awe. "I was a fool. You're exactly the kind of person anyone would be lucky to have." I listened without flinching. His words, once they would have pierced me, now landed flat. Because I knew what they really meant. You proved your value to the world, so now I want in. I thought of Chloe scrambling to hold onto her collapsing image. I thought of my parents silent in their guilt. And now here was Adrian, another figure from my past, crawling back not out of love but convenience. I lifted my glass of water, studying the way the light fractured through it. "Adrian, let me be clear. I didn't change. I've been this person all along. It's only now that the world notices." He opened his mouth to protest, but I raised a hand. "I'd rather be alone with respect," I said softly, "than together as someone's backup plan." For a long moment he just stared at me, dimple fading eyes, narrowing, as though he had never truly seen me before. Then he gave a small, defeated nod. "I understand." We finished dinner in silence. He paid the bill with a lawyer's pride, but when we parted on the sidewalk, I walked away without looking back. That night, I returned to the estate and sat in the study, the brass keys heavy in my hand. Ghosts had a way of finding their way back, but this time I had no fear. My past no longer haunted me. It served as proof of how far I had come. What I didn't realize was that the biggest confrontation still waited ahead. Chloe was quiet for now, but silence in my family never meant surrender. It meant planning. And I was ready to meet it head on. It was my mother who broke the silence first. A polite text, the kind she used when she wanted to control the tone before a storm. "Family dinner this Friday. We need to talk." I almost didn't go. The estate was quiet, comfortable mine. Why step back into the lion's den? But a part of me wanted the confrontation, wanted to hear the words they had swallowed all these weeks. So Friday evening, I drove across town to the old family home, the same place where Chloe had once been celebrated, as if she were royalty while I played the supporting role. The dining room hadn't changed, a chandelier that hummed faintly with age, the long oak table polished to a shine, my father at the head rigid as ever, my mother with her folded napkin eyes darting between us, and Chloe seated across from me, her sequins replaced by a plain blouse, her face, pale eyes rimmed red. No one spoke until after the plates had been filled. My father cleared his throat. "Olivia, you embarrassed the family." I set my fork down. I embarrassed the family. My voice was calm, but each word was a nail hammered in. She humiliated me in front of hundreds of guests, thousands of viewers, and you call my response the embarrassment? Chloe flinched but raised her chin. "I was joking. You didn't have to blast private documents in a group chat." "You called me invisible?" I said, my voice steady. "And you didn't do it privately. You did it on Livestream. The internet remembers everything. Don't blame me for holding a mirror to your words." My mother wrung her hands. "We only ask that you stop. This drama online, it makes us look dishonorable," I cut in. "Where was that honor when you laughed at my expense? Where was it when you told me to be the bigger person instead of defending me?" The room grew cold. My father pressed his lips thin, unable to answer. Chloe's eyes glossed with tears. "I've lost sponsors, Olivia. People think I'm cruel. My career is collapsing. Are you happy now?" I leaned forward. "No, Chloe. I'm not happy that you're suffering, but I am relieved that the truth finally outweighs your performance." From my bag, I pulled the brass keys to the estate and set them on the table. Their weight made the wood creak. "This estate is mine, not the family's, not Chloe's stage. Mine. Respect it or lose access forever." The silence that followed was absolute. My father stared at the keys, his jaw tightening. My mother dabbed her eyes with a napkin. Chloe pushed her plate away, stood up without a word, and walked out. The front door slammed moments later. I rose slowly, collected the keys, and slipped them back into my bag. If you can't respect me, then at least respect the truth. That's all I've ever asked. And with that, I left. The night air was sharp, but it carried a strange lightness. For the first time, I wasn't carrying the weight of their expectations. I had set it down in the middle of that oak table and walked away. But families have long memories, and the internet has even longer. Chloe's humiliation was far from over, and mine had finally turned into something else entirely. Respect. The following weeks were quiet in a way I had not experienced before. Not the silence of being ignored or dismissed, but a calm that came after a storm had passed. I woke each morning in the estate sunlight, filtering through lace curtains, the scent of old wood and lavender drifting from the garden. For the first time in years, I wasn't bracing for the next request, the next guilt trip, the next dismissal wrapped as a joke. The internet still buzzed, of course. Memes continued, though softer now, more celebratory than mocking. Number. Team Olivia lingered, evolving into something people used when they wanted to celebrate reliability, loyalty, and quiet strength. I had become a symbol, though I never asked for it. Articles described me as the sister who turned humiliation into power. I learned not to cringe when I saw my name. My parents kept their distance. The family chat once filled with Chloe's photos, and my mother's reminders lay dormant. My father sent a single message weeks later. "We'll respect your boundaries." It wasn't love, not even an apology, but it was acknowledgement. Sometimes that is the best you can expect from people who only know how to love conditionally. Chloe tried briefly to make a comeback. She posted a vlog titled, "What I Learned About Family." The comment section was brutal. Lesson 1, don't roast your sister on Livestream. Lesson 2, respect the boring ones with million-dollar estates. She disabled comments within hours. Brand stayed away. Her glittering career was gone, at least for now. And me, I found peace, not in their downfall, but in my own freedom. I walked through the estate rooms, touching the carved banisters, the photographs of my grandmother, who had seen me clearly long before anyone else did. Her voice echoed in my mind. Security matters more than sparkle. She was right. Sparkle fades. Security endures. One evening, I stood on the porch, keys cool in my palm, watching the sun drop behind the hills. The air was still painted in gold. For years, I had been told I was the boring one, the safe one, the invisible one. But what is boring except the foundation everyone else stands on? What is safe except the anchor when storms come? Humiliation had cut me down, yes, but it had also carved me into something sharper, stronger, undeniable, and revenge. It hadn't been a screaming fire. It had been truth steady and clear, and it had burned far longer than rage ever could. So I leave you with this. Sometimes respect is worth more than any inheritance. Sometimes the quietest voice carries the heaviest weight, and sometimes being the boring one is exactly what saves you. If you think Olivia made the right move, comment right. If you would have handled it differently, share your idea, I'll be reading.